What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. How is everybody doing? Hope you're all doing very well. Happy Thursday. It is Thursday, the 30th of May. Just one day left of the month of May. Then we're into June. Then we're into just days before not only does the transfer window open, but then also the European Championship start as well. It's going to be a busy June, isn't it? It's going to be a busy June. But even before then, we've got so much going on. We've still got the future of Erik ten Hag hanging in the balance, seemingly, with reports this morning coming from the likes of Fabrizio Romano that this review is still ongoing. No decision has been made yet, but links to Thomas Tuchel. We're going to be talking a little bit about Sir Jim Ratcliffe wanting an injury fix at Manchester United after the disastrous campaign involving, what was it, over 60 injuries and what have you. They want that to be fixed. We're also going to be talking about Carrington having a overhaul. They've been working on it for a while now, but a big overhaul this summer, the biggest overhaul since they moved in there in the late 90s as well. So there's plenty to get into. Also a little bit about offsides, AI, technology, going to be implemented next season, and if that's a good thing or if that's a bad thing. So there is so much to get into. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Road to, well, it's sort of like on the match views with KG and myself. You got to take things in chunks, haven't you? You know, you got to have, so it's road to 170k at the moment. I mean, we're less than 200 subscribers away from 169k. That'd be just 1k off 170k. And then the long run to 200k. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and click the like button. The poll is already in the chat saying, have you hit the like button? Yes, or doing it now. We've already got close to 500 people watching, already 100 likes. Let's keep that momentum going. What is the chat saying as well? How are you all doing? Let me know where you're watching from and what the weather's like this morning. I'm addicted to the fan at the moment. I'm going to be honest with you. Even if it's now not too hot, I feel like just around this time of the year, I just like having the fan on. I just like, I like having a bit of the breeze. Obviously you go outside, go for a walk, but when I'm in the house, when I'm doing it, I just like having the fan on. It's just fun, isn't it? It's just fun. What are people saying here in the chat as well? All Elite's in there talking about Erik ten Hag, saying, I think after that cup final, there are more people who want to give him a chance than those who want to see him gone. Even me, who was bitterly disappointed, thinks he should have another run at it. We're going to be talking about Erik ten Hag and the speculation surrounding him too. MA says, watching from a gloomy East Manchester. Imran saying, cold, windy and heavy rain. Kenny Fan TV says, Australia, mate. I can't, you know what it is? I'm not very good at accents. I wish I was better at accents. I can't do it. I can't do accents. But the High Line for Life, I can kind of do that. KG's better at that. Bacon Butty's watching from Yorkshire. Kareem's watching at 4:09 a.m. in Canada. Wow, look at that. The global audience is globaling right now. Gash is watching from Cambridge. It's cloudy. Christopher's watching from California. We've got Adrian watching from Kenya. We've got S watching from Istanbul. We've got South Africa too. Look at this. Look at this. We've got Daniel Luciano from Connecticut. Certainly asked where I'm from in the UK. I'm from Oxford. That's not where I live anymore, but that's where I'm from initially. Yeah. And the problem is, whenever you say that, people go posh. You go, no, definitely not. But yes, we've got the Netherlands, we've got India. Kristen, I see you. You're not from Kazakhstan or anything like that. Queen says Wigan. So we got this is global. This is absolutely global at the moment. Look at this, fantastic. Yes. So if you haven't already, click that like button. What do we want to talk about first? Let's talk a little bit about Erik ten Hag and the latest surrounding his future. I don't know. It's one of those ones. I saw some people saying in the chat earlier, and it is very true, is that this is becoming very tedious, isn't it? It's becoming very tedious, very laborious, talking about Erik ten Hag and his future and the review into his future. I think the sort of latest information, sort of a day or so ago, as to a timeline involving all of this, of when are we going to find out? When are we going to find out? When are we going to hear something? When are we going to get a decision? And the sort of latest reporting was probably not this week. I mean, it's Thursday now, so it'd be very surprising if we got something by tomorrow, by COP, by you know, all those acronyms that you get when you work in an office: close of play, end of day, close of business, tomorrow. I'd be very surprised when it comes to that. It looks like it's going to maybe take another week. I don't know how long this one is going to take, and there would be some concerns because Manchester United have a lot to do this summer, clearly. But this morning there's been a little bit from Fabrizio Romano talking about not only, I suppose, this review that's going on into Erik ten Hag and the possibility of him losing his job, but also someone that's very keen on replacing him at Old Trafford, and that's Thomas Tuchel. So let's get into this one. This comes from Fabrizio Romano from his YouTube channel. He then followed this up with a post on social media this morning. On his YouTube channel, in a video that was uploaded, he said, at the moment, the fact that Manchester United spoke to several agents of different managers gives the feeling that there is a concrete possibility to part ways with Erik ten Hag. However, no formal communication has been made and no internal decision has been made. He continued by saying, Manchester United parting ways with Erik ten Hag remains a strong possibility. In case they do, there are several candidates to replace him. Thomas Tuchel would be very keen on becoming Manchester United manager. Despite the club having no Champions League football, Tuchel knows it is a new project. Now, this was in, again, the YouTube video that he posted. But Romano, this is sometimes what he tends to do. He tends to put the YouTube video out first, sometimes later on in the evening. Then his first post of the day is related to what he said the night prior, if that makes sense. So this is what he has said this morning, saying Thomas Tuchel remains keen on getting back to work already this summer in case of a good opportunity. If Manchester United decide to fire Erik ten Hag, still waiting on internal review, Tuchel would be one of the names in the shortlist. He's very keen on a Premier League return, which again is not really new information. We know Thomas Tuchel wants the Manchester United job. It was very obvious even when he was still technically in post at Bayern Munich. He wants the Manchester United job. I mentioned it several weeks ago when Florian Plettenberg was on Sky Sports in Germany, and he was saying about how Thomas Tuchel, there's only sort of two things he'd do this summer. It'd be go to the Premier League, or it would be have a rest in his career. He's only interested in a move back to the Premier League, and there are two clubs that he's interested in, one being Manchester United because he adores the project, the fans, and the history, and the players, etc., and the other one being Chelsea because he's got unfinished business at Chelsea. And I said at the time, he's not going back to Chelsea. The people that own the club are in control of the club are the same people that he couldn't work with however many months ago, 18 months ago, 2 years ago. Nothing's changed in that regard. And even when Poch left the club, it was very quickly apparent he's not going back. So when you peel away, because this is always what it is with the media and with news, there's a lot. There's an element, sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes there is an element of truth in it, and you've got to peel it all away. Like I said, it's like panning for gold, isn't it? You've got to put all the dirt into the sieve, shake it, and then you might get a little bit. You might get a little bit of truth. The truth is, Thomas Tuchel, through his agents, through his representatives, through his contacts in the media, is saying, I want the Manchester United job. That is what he is saying. So when the news comes out about Tom, he's exploring all the options. He's looking at the options. He's saying he wants the United job. And he would be a candidate, of course, if Ineos decide to go in a different direction from Erik ten Hag. Of course he would be a candidate. I think if Ineos decided to go in that direction of getting rid of Ten Hag, which, as I've said before, you can say flip-flop or whatever, I don't think they should do. Now, I don't see how they can do it, and I don't think they should do it at the moment, given, just the groundswell of momentum and support that Erik ten Hag has, not just from the fans, but from the players, from staff members as well. And I think he's earned the right to not get a new contract, but I think he's earned the right to not even necessarily see out his contract, but I think he's been given a chance to have more time, and to see what happens going into next season. If Ineos were to go in an opposite direction, which again I don't think they should now, then Thomas Tuchel, as I've said before, I think is the sort of standout candidate from those that remain. You look at the market right now, and there doesn't really seem to be, I mentioned before, Pochettino. I see him and Ten Hag as quite interchangeable from last season, to be honest with you. You look at the issues that Poch had at Chelsea, they're very similar to Erik ten Hag at Manchester United, and Erik ten Hag managed to win something and managed to get into a competition that Chelsea aren't in next season when it comes to the Europa League. But you look at Roberto De Zerbi, I think obviously he plays a very distinct style of football. Whether or not he'd be able to replicate that at Manchester United, whether he'd be able to, do that with the playing squad that's currently there, and what have you, I have reservations again about that. Thomas Tuchel, I do think that people have outwardly tried to play down his accomplishments and sort of say some mistruths about his football, which I think is just purely based on them not wanting Erik ten Hag to leave, which to me I understand, but I think it's also important to constantly operate in reality, shall we say. With Thomas Tuchel, there's myths that say he only plays a back three, which is of course not true. He played a back four at Bayern this year, played a back four at PSG when they got to the Champions League final. There's this thing about, hey, well, winning things. What's he actually ever done? Hey, he's won Champions League. He's won league titles where he's been. We can't put that down. We can't. But with Ten Hag in the situation at the moment, again, I think Ineos have planned this really poorly, or predicted this really poorly. I think that they assumed, I mentioned this before the FA Cup final, I think their assumption was, and I don't think it was a radical assumption, because we were having conversations, weren't we, going, are we going to win any more games this season when there was 4 games left? We certainly didn't anticipate winning, 3 if you count the FA Cup final and winning a trophy. Like, that just wasn't anticipated. And I really do think that they didn't anticipate us, one, getting to the FA Cup final, which sort of delayed their timeline. They certainly did not anticipate us winning the FA Cup, and they definitely didn't anticipate us winning it in the manner that we did win it. I think they thought, well, if we win it might be a bit of a fluke, maybe on penalties. City have a really, really bad day. We score in the last minute, something like that. That's what happened. But the general sentiment will be, no, we need to go in another direction, or we lose. Worst, Premier League season ever, etc., etc., etc. And it's really gone the total opposite of maybe how they predicted it. We won games towards the end of the season. We were playing better, not great, but we were playing better, and we won against the best team in the league, arguably the best team in the world, against the best manager in the world, and we deserved to, and we played very well. And then it's not just about the result, because I know people then get into the situation when they say, I can't believe you're changing based off one game and based off this, based off that. It's like we've said multiple times, it's the manner of the victory as well. It's the manner of the recent performances too, going that, again, tactics got right. Players came back. We played better. We deserved to win that game. And it's not to say that Erik ten Hag is out of the woods, because I don't think he is. Clearly, they're evaluating his future at the moment. If he stays, I don't think he gets a new contract immediately or anything like that. And if we start the season poorly, he will be under pressure again, because that's the currency of football hasn't changed. The currency of football is results and trophies. He's got some results at the end of the season. He's won a trophy, so that buys you more time. And I think that's where we're at with Erik ten Hag. I think he's bought himself more time, and I think that, and I think it'd be the right thing to do, to let him have a summer to see what happens with these players, if he can keep them fit, if they stay back, and then reassess. If Thomas Tuchel really wants the Manchester United job, he's not going to go anywhere. According to himself and his agent, it's Premier League or nothing. Chelsea have got a new manager. Manchester United might keep theirs. If something changes in 6 months, he can still be around. Kieran McKenna, if they really like him, see what happens with a season in the Premier League. They can reassess it next season. It might be a more viable option. The circumstances change so quickly in football, and a lot can change in a year's time too. So I think that, and the problem is as well, is we're still in the same situation that we were in, for months at this point. This is still totally ambiguous. Nobody knows, and nobody. Romano can tweet what he's tweeted out this morning, but the fact of the matter is, still nobody knows. Nobody has a clue what's going on. I still think some of the decision makers don't know what's going on at Manchester United at the moment. Going, what are we going to do? Where are we going? What are we thinking about? People's opinions are constantly evolving and constantly changing. The market is constantly evolving and constantly changing. And there's this weird sort of dichotomy at the moment, isn't there? Because there is a desire for this to be resolved very quickly. Like, let's just make a decision, let's move on, let's focus for next season. And I understand that, and I think, and again, I partially agree with that. On the other side of it, there is this argument of, well, can't be too rash, can't be too, just knee-jerk and go into one way or the other, whether it's just, nope, we're still being stubborn, Erik ten Hag, get rid of him, or at the same time, nope, we're still basking on the glory of the FA Cup final, we're going to keep him. They've still got to assess all the right options too. So there's a lot. There's still a lot to consider. But like you, it's incredibly tedious and incredibly frustrating. And also, it hasn't resolved the people going back at each other. I do think that more people now have been swayed to the idea of, well, let him stay for the summer and the beginning part of next season and see what happens. But there are still people that are digging in, and once again, insults are flying. It really are. And the problem is, I think eventually you just have to realize that isn't going to change, irrespective of what's going on, because you have to remember these are both two sides of the same coin. I've seen the argument be made about the opinion of the fans should be taken into account and the support of the fans should be taken into account. And then I've seen the opposite side of that, where people go, no, that's the problem. If they take into account fan opinion, then Ineos are just same versions of the Glazers. And when you take a step back, you go, well, wait a minute. They're both asking the same thing, really, aren't they? You've got a group of people going, listen to us, we want our opinion to be heard. And then you've got the other part, then you've got the opposite of going, no, don't listen to us. But at the same time, if you're telling someone not to listen to you, they're still technically listening to you. So it's the same thing. They're arguing just complete opposites, but they still want them to be heard. I want you to listen to me to take into account that the manager should stay. I want you to not listen to me so the manager doesn't stay. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And the only resolution to it is that it gets done. It gets done and a decision is made. But it's not going to make people happy. It's not, because we will never be. Some super chats and members chats here. So Marcus is the latest member of the UV Members Club. Welcome to you. If you do wish to join the Members Club, you can do so. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. Space says, Ineos looking for their guy, aka their puppet. Well, this was something I was mentioning during the season anyway, that I still think will, if Erik ten Hag stays, which again is my preference at this point, they will always be looking for their guy. And I think that is something that it will always hang over Erik ten Hag's head. That, as I said last season, when things are going bad, it's much easier to support someone you've hired as opposed to someone you haven't hired. So almost for Erik ten Hag, he almost has to come out of this situation, and maybe this is my what will help him or something like that. If they do decide to keep him, then maybe they view him as, oh, we could have sacked him but we didn't, so that's our backing. Now he's our guy. He has to become Ineos's guy, because when things go bad in the future, and they will at some point, because that's life. It's much easier to back someone that you've hired. Look at Edu and Arteta, right? That's just business. It's not even necessarily a football thing. So that will be something that will always, I think, circle back to Erik ten Hag. Uncle said Chelsea had one meeting and fired Poch. What has taken Ineos too long to sack or back Erik ten Hag? Why so slow? Make a decision and move on already. Damn. Well, I think that in fairness with the Poch one, because by all accounts both parties were exactly on the same page. They both went into that meeting and came out of it very quickly going, we're not compatible. We should go our separate ways, and they did. Manchester United, and again, this is why the context and comparisons are important. You've got one guy who wants to stay, and you've got another party figuring out if he should stay, and that's the difference. And they're not meeting. This review is being conducted by talking to everyone, isn't it? So I understand the point, and I understand, like, what everyone's saying, you want it to be done quickly. I want it to be done quickly. It is tedious. And in the absence of real information, you get bullshit, which is what we've seen. We've seen tweets that where it's like, 1 hour, Erik ten Hag's going to get sacked. The next hour, he's going to stay. I mean, the void has to be filled, doesn't it? Unfortunately, with all of this information, and a lot of it is nonsense. S. Wade says, Ineos have been fair and allowed Erik to manage until the end of the season. No other big club would have kept him after being grouped in the Champions League. Or I think after finishing bottom in the Champions League. Sanil says, we're just being driven by emotions, no logic. If we finish 7th next season with a cup, would you say, oh my God, what a manager with 3 trophies, we deserve better? Well, look, that's a scenario. That's a scenario. Maybe by that point, people's opinions might have changed by that. You know, if we're not in the Champions League again, we finish 7th, I think the counter argument to that one would be, but what if we finish 4th with no trophy? Would you be happy with that? I mean, once you start getting into the sort of hypothetical scenarios, it gets quite difficult, doesn't it? Space Oddie says, Ten Hag outers who all of a sudden don't care about trophies and only want higher place in the league table. Ollie is your god then. And this, do you know what? I think those last couple of super chats have kind of just summed up my point with that. Maybe, and this is why it's important to hopefully get a resolution to this soon, is because it's that, isn't it? It's that still. It's that, and I had hoped maybe once the season had ended, we would get away from this, because it's been like this, my goodness me, for the last, I think, 6 months. But it's still that. And after a while, you just get tired, don't you? you just get really tired by it, to the point that when you do see these stories or informations, you just roll your eyes and go, okay, cool. Like, cool, because it's tiring. It is. You get two sides just arguing at each other. We've got nearly 1,400 people watching, already close to 400 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. And we'll move on to the next one in just a second about injuries. See what else people are saying here in the chat at the moment. Simon McGill says, almost past caring, just get on with it. Skilliana says, 4th with no trophy is definitely better than 7th with 1 trophy. What else are people saying here? There's just a lot of back and forth. Joe says, I have no faith in Ineos in the summer transfer window. We are likely to sign no one, but end up with the same players. We want to move on, and yet Ten Hag is still to blame for their failures. And this is also the point I would say, which is important. A lot of these things, like, we don't know. We still, and again, that's ambiguity, isn't it? We don't know what's going to happen this summer. We don't know what's going to happen with the manager. We don't know what's going to happen with transfers. And I think in the absence of information, your brain starts just sort of dreaming worst case scenarios and sort of panicking, don't they? And that's why you do need information. At some point, a decision has to be made. But it looks like it's not going to be this week. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows at this point? Let's move on. Let's talk about injuries. Because Sir Jim Ratcliffe, by all accounts, wants a resolution to the injury problem at Manchester United. Don't we all? So this came from Jamie Jackson from The Guardian, saying Sir Jim Ratcliffe has identified Manchester United's dire injury record as a critical area to address, believing this will hugely improve performance after a season when the squad sustained more than 60 injuries. Ratcliffe and his key lieutenant, Sir Dave Brailsford, are intent on strengthening United in the summer transfer window, but are conscious that a squad of quality players is of no use if they are serially unavailable. Erik ten Hag's selection and ability to have a consistent way of playing were constantly disrupted, with the defence particularly affected. Brailsford, the director of sport at Ineos, Ratcliffe's company, is leading the drive to improve the medical department's performance alongside Gary O'Driscoll, who became the head of sports medicine in September. O'Driscoll has assessed the department and, it is understood, initiated enhancements. There is confidence at the club that the benefits of O'Driscoll's work will be fully realised next season. This includes extensive research into what caused so many problems, the rehabilitation of Rafael Varane and Alessandro Martinez from injuries to play in Saturday's FA Cup final victory over Manchester City is viewed as evidence of O'Driscoll's impact. So, I mean, look, it's always difficult when you have to do it by yourself.
Erik ten Hag must stay. Simple.
Pharaoh spoken. Simple as. End the stream. End the stream. Done. I can press the acknowledge me one as well. I think it's got
Acknowledge me.
There you go. One's in the chat. One's in the chat. Pharaoh's in the chat. Pharaoh's in the chat. Nubian has arrived. And he said, Eric Ten Hag must stay. Simple. That's it. Done. No problem. Yeah. Nubian Pharaoh. Speak his name and he shall appear. Nubian Pharaoh. Who knows when he'll show back up again? You know? Just comes in. I mean, if this was real, you know, well, it is real life. But if we were all together in person, I feel like he would just sort of, the door would fling open. There would maybe be sort of dry ice. Maybe the lights would come down a little bit. Possibly some lasers. I'm just thinking about this one. He'd come in, microphone, obviously. You know, got to reach the masses. Microphone. And he would just say, Eric Ten Hag must stay. Simple. And then he would drop the microphone. Probably carefully, though. I assume Nubian Pharaoh to be a careful man. And a very respectful man. So probably would drop it, but there'd be some kind of cushion. You know, so you wouldn't want to break the equipment, maybe. And then maybe the lights would just go back off and we wouldn't actually see him exit. I think that's the way I envision that. So there you go. With Nubian Pharaoh. Pharaoh's in the chat. Pharaoh's in the chat. Big up Nubian Pharaoh. Appreciate the contribution and the support as always. Get the likes up for Nubian. We're less than 100 to go until 500. What was I talking about? Oh yes, injuries. There's a lot of scrutiny on the medical department at Manchester United, rightfully so, because it has been overworked. It has been, I suppose, underperforming. There have been those reports about players that don't want to go to Man United's medical team this season if they've got an injury because they don't want to get worse. There was the stories about Casemiro going, you know, I've got a problem with my hamstring. You're fine. You're fine. And he goes, I want a second look in Spain. Goes to Spain and goes, you can't play. You cannot play on that. You'll get much worse. So that needs to be resolved. Look, I hope with these kind of reports, it's one of those ones, isn't it, where you go, well, I guess we've got to wait and see then. They're saying that these issues or, you know, the improvements that have been made to the medical department will be realised next season. I really hope so. Because if we can't have another season of what we had this year with the injuries, my goodness me. I mean, look how badly it affected us. And I'm sure, actually, in fairness, I'm sure a lot of clubs are having this conversation right now. Why is it always so that Manchester United is sort of the worst with it? Why do we always have the most injuries? Because the argument that lots of clubs have had injuries, it is true. There is a systemic football problem, isn't there? With the amount of games that are being played, new competitions that are being added, the strain and the stress on the football players is getting too much, and players are getting injured more often. The intensity of the game has changed as well, so players are getting injured more often. But it always feels like Manchester United are always the least equipped to manage with all of those problems, manage with those developments. And I see with, you know, Gary O'Driscoll, many people point out, they go, it won't stop.
Listen to Owen. Get them likes up.
And then we have the same thing again with, you know, with the lights and the lasers and the fire and the the dry ice, the microphone, the drop as well. How could you not love Nubian Pharaoh? The gravitas that he brings, the gravitas, the aura. Yes. Big up Nubian Pharaoh. I know for a fact, again, his entrances, I'm going to make it a personal mission of mine to get bigger and more over the top. And continue. I mean, you think that a gong now and a voice changer is bad? I'm going to raise it to another level. I mean, I'm not sure I can legally use fire in this room. I'll try it. I'll see what happens. Yeah? I don't want to hurt anyone. but that kind of thing. Yes, so big up to Nubian Pharaoh. But yes, with the injuries, look, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But United very, very, very clearly cannot handle it. Gary O'Driscoll, that's what I was saying too. With people point to that when he was at Arsenal, they had a really bad fitness record. And Manchester United have a very bad fitness record, and he's there. Granted, he hasn't been there all season, but it's very clear. Erik ten Hag said it in his interview he did with the Dutch media prior to the FA Cup final. Ineos are looking to change everything, and we're going to get to Carrington in a second. The story, not there. It would be quite spectacular, that wouldn't it? If I just, teleported there. But we're going to get to that in a bit. And clearly they want to change everything. So clearly they've got to look at that. That was a massive problem for us this season, wasn't it? The injuries. That needs to be fixed. That needs to be resolved. And hopefully we do see the improvements when it comes to that. I can't say I'm holding my breath because we get sold these dreams a lot with a lot of different things, don't we? With the scouting network, with improvements to the hierarchy, etc., etc. And then nothing really changes. But clearly it's a problem that needs to get fixed. Hopefully it will. But like I said, I'm not holding my breath on that one. Where are we at with Super Chats as well? In between the Nubian Pharaoh madness. We've got Space says, that's it. No argument. Eric stays. I think in response to Nubian's declaration. Aditya said, Erik ten Hag should just improve the team's shape out of possession and not be involved in recruitment. With the ball, we are not that bad. And BJ's been a member for 11 months. Says, scrutinising each and every goal we conceded last season, the style of play almost worked until individual errors costed us points. Erik ten Hag wasn't on the pitch. Well, look, certainly, again, there's a lot of support for Erik ten Hag at the moment. And that was my kind of, talk coming out of the FA Cup final, that the decision surrounding Erik ten Hag's future was polarising anyway, wasn't it? When those reports came out 24, 48 hours before about McKenna, about talks with other agents and other representatives, it was divisive. It was polarising. And because of, obviously, what happened with the final, because of the performance of it, because of his comments before and afterwards, because of the players' comments, it's becoming even more unpopular. And I understand the argument of people saying, well, Ineos can't focus on what's popular. They should focus on what's right. That's a fair argument to make. I understand that. But also, then you have to go into, well, is it then right that you talk about the currency of football being results and trophies? He did just that. And then should he not get more time when it comes to that? And then people point out to the stats. Big up to Jay Motty from Stretford Paddock was saying, United wait 6 years to win a trophy. A manager gets 2-2, and suddenly we're then looking to get rid of him. A lot of arguments are very valid, aren't they? A lot of arguments there are very valid, and again, I think everyone's just waiting for an outcome at this point, aren't they? And it's very, very tiring, very frustrating, but doesn't look like we're going to be getting that this week, does it? We're 2 likes away. 2 likes away from 500. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get to 500, which is a fantastic effort for a solo stream. Really appreciate everyone getting involved at the moment. Really appreciate everyone talking and chatting, sharing their opinions. It's a very opinionized period at the moment for Manchester United, isn't it? So yes, big up to everyone. There you go. We just got over 500. So let's see if we can get to 700, 750. That would be pretty miraculous for a solo stream. So big up to everyone involved with that. Let's talk about Carrington as well, because I spoke about Ineos making changes. I spoke about Ineos having this desire to rip a lot of things up. And according to Paul Hurst and Charlotte Dunker from The Times, Ineos have initiated the biggest shakeup of Carrington's working practices and environment in the complex's 23-year existence. One of the major renovations will involve knocking through walls of offices to create 2 communal working areas for the manager and his many staff. continues by saying, Ineos want to become more cost effective as a business, telling staff to look after club money as if it was their own. Hold that thought, we're going to circle back to that one. Introduce more collaborative approach at Carrington by creating new communal areas for the manager, his coaches and other backroom staff. Upgrade the gym facilities at Carrington, so next time if Ronaldo ever comes back, he will say, these are the same things, same machines that I used back in 2008. And also cut loose staff who are not committed to the new regime. And that part about the money, they say that one of the main concerns that Ineos have is that Manchester United have been bringing in record revenues for the past few years but are still reporting losses. Manchester United staff have been told by Ineos to spend budgets wisely as if they are looking after their own personal money. Now that one's quite funny, I think, because when you get into the part about budgets and spending money more wisely, you get the cries of here more Glazer. This is a very Glazer approach. This is a very Glazer approach from Ineos. Why are they doing this? This makes me concerned. But you have to then realise that you can't have it both ways. We have lambasted Manchester United for several years, talking about stupid contracts, stupid spending. We generate, it's true, we generate record revenues. We report losses because we just cannot manage a budget effectively. We overspend, we undersell, all of the above. We don't put money into stuff that should be funded, like the training ground, like the equipment, like the academy, like the women's team or whatever, and they still manage to succeed. But all of those things are important. So with that, I see that and I go, good. Good, because that's normal. That's normal. It's normal for someone to buy into a business and then look at the books, if you will, look at the accounts and go, what are we doing here? Like, why are we spending this? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? And then from an FFP and PSR point of view, in the long term, Manchester United then can go and spend more money in the transfer market. They then can go and be more efficient in the transfer market because they're not hamstrung by just poor business practices. I know that, and again, this is sort of the Manchester United have operated as a bit of an oxymoron for the past decade under the regimes of like Ed Woodward and others, in that, yeah, we make record revenues, we get huge sponsorship deals, we get massive commercial deals, and we're very good at it. But other aspects of the business, other aspects such as, again, budget management or investing it into areas that need investment, were terrible. Like, if you ask people within football how efficiently Manchester United are run or operate, they'll laugh about certain areas. They'll go, they're very good, again, at commercial contracts. We've always got a new sponsor. We're always getting record deals. But it's sort of like, I don't know. It's like when your house is falling apart, but you've got a Ferrari on the drive, and they go, they must be doing well. And you go, have you been inside? And you go, no. He goes, it's a shithole in there. And then you go, they go, oh, it is. It is. Why have they got that Ferrari on the drive? Oh, keep up appearances. That's what you got to do. You make sure everyone thinks that you're doing very well. And that's Man United in a nutshell. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Carrington's needed major renovation, needed major improvements. They'd begun doing that last summer, and this year, by all accounts, it's been getting much more extensive, because the logic would be, well, if you can keep those commercial deals going, but you spend more effectively and you reinvest the money more effectively, we'll do better. We'll do better as a club. So with that kind of stuff, I've got no problem. We can't criticise, I don't think anyway, for things that we've wanted. We've wanted for them to improve the training ground. Well, Manchester United. We wanted Manchester United to improve the training ground. We've wanted to spend more efficiently. We've wanted, to put money into proper areas of the club. That's what we have wanted. So when we get the news that that's what the plan is, to react to that as, they're just the Glazers, there's penny pinching. You go, well, no, it's not really. It's not penny pinching. Penny pinching is doing nothing. Penny pinching is going, let's stop spending and let's not do anything. Let's keep Carrington exactly how it is, and then cut loads of staff, and then cut loads of this, and then cut loads of that. Let's not do anything. That would be proper penny pinching, to spend no money in the summer transfer market. That would absolutely be penny pinching. But that's not the case at the moment. As far as the summer, look, it doesn't look like anyone's got a good grip of what that budget is going to be for Man United, do they? At some points it's 35 million, some points it's 100 million. I see the reports coming out saying, well, there's like 3 targets and they're only going to be going after a couple of people this summer. That's going to be it. That thing comes out every season, doesn't it? Every summer you get the same articles. It's very paint by numbers, the coverage of Manchester United in the transfer window. And again, in the absence of information, people start making stuff up. But it gets into the territory of going, Man United have got no money. Man United have got money. Man United are only going to buy 2 players this summer transfer window. Then we end up buying like 5 or 6. Like it was the same. It's the same thing every single summer, isn't it? So Manchester United will buy players this summer. My biggest thing I'm interested in is how efficient are Manchester United at getting rid of players this summer. There are some pretty easy ones. There are some layups. Obviously, people's contracts are expiring. We know that Martial's leaving. We know that Varane's leaving. But people that are... Even people that are a year on their contract, you go, well, they should be fairly easy, surely, to get out the door. But can they remove some people that have got several years on their contracts? Can they get rid of some big players that we go, man, didn't think that was going to happen. Didn't think we were able to get that one done. That would be the change I'm kind of looking for this summer in the transfer market. And also, you also hope that the players that you do bring in, you go, that's good value for money. That's good value for money. I'm happy with that one. And also, some of it is you're going to have to judge it in a year's time, because then you can go, I tell you what, that transfer really paid off. That was good. Very seldom do we do that at Manchester United nowadays, do we? A year later, it's always very much up for debate about whether a transfer has paid off or whether it's been a good deal or not too sure. Hopefully, and again, maybe that is just pure, hopium, but hopefully, maybe this time next year we can say that about a couple of transfers. Maybe that. I'll tell you what, that really helped us. We got a lot better because of that. Whether or not we do, who knows? I caught up when it comes to super chats here. Let me see what the chat's saying at the moment too. Lots of people talking about Erik ten Hag. Lots of people talking about transfers too. Ten Hag in says John Murto deals with transfer fees and stupid high wages, not Ten Hag. Glazes out. Chalaboy Comics, big up to you, one of our members, says, and ahead of the season, can we as fans have a discussion of what successful means to us? Additionally, what we believe our ethos is. I believe this discussion will allow for long-term projection. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I think that some of those discussions are difficult to have when you don't even know who the manager is going to be, because depending on who they are, the targets might be a little bit different. For instance, if Erik ten Hag does stay, which I think he should, there will be this discussion of, well, it's his 3rd season. He has won 2 trophies in 2 years. Last season was a bad season for a variety of factors. Also, as well, he needs to improve in certain aspects, but get back to being in that top 4, get back to pushing up at the higher end of the league. If it's another manager, not him, then people might say, well, there's certain things that he's got to adjust to, and what a success for that person look like. I mean, a lot of these discussions I don't think can even happen until we even know what the future looks like. I mean, broad strokes, it would be Manchester United at a minimum, you would hope, get into the top 4 and are competing for trophies, like we have been for the last couple of seasons, right? But yes, Steffi says, I think he meant later before the season begins. Oh, and not now. Well, certainly, yeah. Once you get those bits of information, absolutely. I mean, you should always have that going into a new season, shouldn't you? What are we really expecting? But also, as sort of Flex was saying in his Flex's view yesterday, it's okay for predictions, projections, barometers to change as the season goes on. As the season unfolds and this new information and new data comes to light, your opinion's allowed to evolve and it is allowed to change. This insistence of, you've said something here, you have to stick by it, you're not allowed to change your mind ever, that to me is quite strange. As long as you're willing to hold your hands up and go, I've pivoted on this one. I've changed my mind a bit. There's some new information or new data, or I've looked at this again, or even going, I said this before and I was wrong. That's fine too. That's totally fine. This insistence of, and I think that's part of some sort of division now, is that I think there's a lot of doubling down and digging heels in, and I think that's sort of quite dangerous to do. because again, just like life, everything evolves, everything changes, and new stuff constantly happens, and you're allowed to go, oh, that's maybe I was wrong on that, or maybe thinking about seeing this and listening to other people's opinions. When you can listen to other people's opinions, go, you made a good point. Now I hadn't really considered that. Maybe I should consider that. And if I consider that, maybe my opinion on this thing can change. That's okay. That's good. That's why we're having these discussions, are we not? Is to grow. And look, if you don't want to change your mind, that's also totally fine. But this whole being called out, as long as you don't sort of rewrite history, that's the key thing, I think, with it all. You're allowed to change your mind as long as you don't pretend that you never did or anything like that. I never said that. When you did say that or whatever, that's when he gets into quite dangerous territory. But that's we're all humans in that regard. I do want to talk about a little bit, just by the way, about the stuff that came out this morning about technology. Yes, technology and semi-automated offside. So this came out this morning, coming from the Times, coming from Martin Ziegler, saying that the Premier League have agreed on a deal where AI will be used to determine offsides. The new system captures 10,000 surface mesh data points per player over 200 times per second and should be far more accurate in determining offsides. It is due to start being used after one of the autumn international breaks, and officials hope it will cut offside decision delays by an average of 31 seconds. Now, there's a bit more information actually in this article coming out from the Times about all of this kind of stuff. Now, it's quite lengthy, so bear with me here. But this semi-automated offside system to be used by the Premier League next season will harness artificial intelligence and force fields, in quotations, to identify when attackers are ahead of defenders. The Times has learned that the Premier League has agreed a deal with Second Spectrum, an American software company that is part of Genius Sports, to provide the technology for the system. It is due to start being used in the Premier League after one of the autumn international breaks, and officials hope it will cut delays in offside decisions by an average of 31 seconds. Instead of limb tracking, which follows up to 36 points on the body, Second Spectrum's Dragon system, there's a lot of big words, isn't there? Dragon, force fields, it feels like an episode of Game of Thrones or something like that, captures 10,000 surface mesh data points per player over 200 times per second and should be far more accurate in determining offsides. The semi-automated system, which has been approved by FIFA, will replace the Hawkeye system, where lines are drawn manually on screen by a VAR technician and can lead to delays of 2 minutes or more. Instead, the Second Spectrum system will automatically detect when attackers are offside when the ball is kicked, with AI used to provide the lines within seconds. An image is provided to the VAR, who will judge if the attacker is interfering with play or not. A source with knowledge of the system said the mesh data would effectively create an invisible force field when it is pierced by part of an attacker's body that can score a goal, i.e. not their arms or hands, will trigger an offside message. 3D graphics will also be made available to broadcasters and for display on big screens in stadiums, although we need a screen for that to show if players were offside or not when a goal is scored. The system is still being tested after concerns that there were occasional, quote, black spots, where it is not 100% effective according to club sources. The Dragon technology is already the Premier League's official tracking data and analytics partner, but has not yet been used for offsides. It is also used in basketball's NBA competition in the United States. The data can also be used to enhance broadcast coverage by providing player speed and shot velocity and produce 3D replications of the entire field for virtual reality experiences. The Premier League clubs agreed in April to semi-automated offsides being introduced. UEFA used its own system in the Champions League last season. Hawkeye will continue to provide other VAR technology. So that's a bit more on, again, the sort of semi-automated offside stuff. I think, look, I've been an advocate for taking the technology out of the human hands in this one, because when all of this stuff came up about VAR and Wolves submitting it to the Premier League and about possibly scrapping it, my problem, again, isn't with the technology. The technology works. The humans don't. The refereeing standards in the Premier League are terrible. They're awful. I mean, they are. and maybe it's just as you get older. Back in my day, it never used to be that bad or whatever. But it does feel like in the last few years, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And if you've got someone on the pitch making a bad decision, and then you give it to people somewhere else that also make bad decisions, why are we then blaming technology? It's technology's fault. No, it's not. It's the people that's using it. It's the people that's using that technology. They're the problem. So in that regards, what should we do? Well, we should also look to train up these people, or also, like we do with every other aspect of the Premier League, whether it's managers, coaches, players, pundits, whatever, get the best referees from around the world. Bring them in, instead of just solely focusing on British-based referees. I know there are a couple of circumstances where people from outside the UK have been brought in. I think that's a good thing. Look for the best of the best. And in those situations where things can be just, you're either offside or you're not, it's either over the line or it's not, just give it to the technology. They'll get it right. Now, obviously, there's a concern there where they say, well, there are a couple of instances where the data's been wrong. It's like with goal line technology. One of the things that really shook faith in the technology was that one at Aston Villa that time when the ball was over the line. Everyone went, that ball looks over the line. And the referee looked at his watch and he said, nope, no goal. So they carried on. Turns out later it finds out that the cameras weren't working properly, or that's what it was. So, yeah, and everyone went, oh, how often has that happened? But I suppose that's always going to happen. Technology is not 100% perfect, but certainly it's more closer than the humans in this regard. I think with VAR, I'm not an advocate for it getting scrapped, because I do think there is a positive from it. I just think a lot needs to be taken away. I think it needs to be stripped back a lot. I think that, again, with things that are cut and dry, because you're either offside or you're not. In that regard, then give it to the semi-automated system. It's quicker, it's faster, you're offside or you're not, boom, done. Now, when you want to talk about the offside law, then maybe that's even changing. There's the Arsene Wenger proposal about, well, if a part of you is onside, then you're onside. It's kind of the opposite of what it is right now, where if a part of you's off, you're off. But now it's like, well, if a part of you's on, then you're onside. Whether or not that will go through, I think it still just kind of shifts the goalpost. And if that sort of Wenger model goes through, it'll radically change football, because the high line will then effectively disappear, because it'll be about getting yourself as deep as possible. So I don't know if that would be good for football or not, but that's another conversation for another day. With the VAR stuff, I think offsides, give that to technology. Goal line technology, give that goal line or over the line, give that to the technology, because it's either over the line or isn't. And then with other things that are subjective, then just leave it. Let's not get involved in it, because we start then scrutinizing tackles, and we start scrutinizing penalty decisions and handballs and all that kind of stuff. And then a lot of the time, again, it's one man's interpretation or opinion, or women's opinions on the pitch, and then they go, I didn't think that was a penalty, I don't think that was a red card. It goes up, and it's just another person's opinion or interpretation of it. It's not cut and dry a lot of the time. So why are we bothering going through the whole rigmarole of going through all of this different technology and different looks at it? Because they're not going to get it right. They're not. So let's just keep the game going. Unless it's factual, you are offside, you're onside, or what have you. Anything else that's up to interpretation, don't bother with VAR, because it's just a time waste, and no one's ever going to be happy with it, because people are, I didn't think that was a penalty. If you can have the conversation of, I don't think, with it, and both sides of the situation are right, then what's the point? What's the point with using the technology of that? Because we're just getting into the territory of interpretation. So I think things that can be factually accurate, you're offside or you're not offside, or that's over the line, that's not over the line, that can get done quickly, then move on. That's it. There'll probably be some flaws and some setbacks, like there was with goal line technology with the time with the Sheffield United Aston Villa one, where it wasn't working, and that will shake people's faith in it a little bit. But I think that's the way to go. We saw it in the Champions League or at the World Cup. I don't know if they're using it in the Euros this year, but that whole thing of, oh, it's offside, then like 10 seconds later they went, there it is, done, finished. I think if VAR is to stick around in its current iteration, well, I don't think it can stick around in its current iteration. That's the point. It needs to have massive reform, massive changes, because the stuff that we saw this season, is not sustainable, and there's so much money on the line now, isn't there? There is so much money on the line. We're talking about whether you're in the Premier League or you're out the Premier League, or you win you win titles, or your club could exist from an FFP point of view or a PSR point of view. There is just so much on the line now, isn't there? So to see a decision be wrong twice is devastating, isn't it? I think there needs to be greater transparency when it comes to referees too. I think this sort of cloak and dagger secret society stuff, you never hear from them, you never talk about them, and then Howard Webb in 6 weeks' time delivers apologies for all of the ones they got wrong. Doesn't help anything, does it? Of course it doesn't. You had Nottingham Forest this season get like a refereeing consultant. It's madness. Like, it is totally out of control. And then you get now, accusations of cheating and corruption, which does not do the sport any good from an integrity point of view, even though some of the allegations might be legitimately, or they might have some kind of merit in them. Even when you look at the sort of the Michael Oliver situation, where some people are, freelancing in certain countries, and then clubs are owned by certain countries, like that's a problem. Like there really is a problem, and with that kind of stuff. So refereeing in general, I think, needs to be overhauled. But yes, when it comes to the automated offsides, I'm an advocate for it. I'm an advocate for getting that stuff sped up, because you're either offside or you're not. And that one can get done quickly. And also, again, because we're at the point now when they have when they start drawing the lines in the game. I don't know about you, but I sometimes look at them going, what are those lines? What are those camera angles? Sometimes they do an offside decision based upon an angle which is not looking directly across the line. It's like slanted. And then you start going, is that right? Like, where's that? And there have been screen grabs of the lines that have been there, and they haven't actually been in the right place, or someone's toe, it's not at someone's toe, it's over someone's toe. Like, there's been lots of stuff like that. So again, for me, give that to technology. The technology is there, and take it out of the humans' hands, because they can't operate it. they can't use it properly. So there you go, guys. Big up to everyone that's got involved this morning. Am I caught up with super chats? Yes, I am. We got to 660 likes. Let's see if we can push for 700 when we're on the way out. What's on tap for the rest of the day? Well, we've got What the Devil is coming up later on today at 6 p.m. Of course, if anything else happens in between now and then, or after then, when it comes to news on Erik ten Hag's future, transfers, contracts, or anything else in between, of course, we'll be live, or we'll be posting something to cover it. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell, and you'll be notified either when we go live or when a new video is uploaded. Have a great Thursday, and I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.